Big news! Recently, yesterday, Ukrainian army liberated the city of Kherson and the right bank of Kherson Oblast, which is probably the biggest defeat for Russian army in this war so far. So we decided to talk to the military expert, the research fellow at National Institute for Strategic Studies and the senior analyst at Come Back Alive, Mykola Bielieskov, and find out what happened and what to expect next. Hi, Mr. Bielieskov. It's nice to have you here. And my first question would be recently, yesterday, officially Kherson city was liberated from the Russian army, and it was a big deal. It was the biggest city and the only regional capital Russia has occupied since 24th of February. And my question would be why and how it happened.
Well, everything in the war is a result of complex interaction of two sides, with each side leveraging their superior capabilities, their advantages. And in this case, it was the result of Ukraine leveraging US supplied and other NATO countries supplied capabilities. First and foremost, it's HIMARS system and MLRS system with Gimler ammo, which allowed to first target the supply links over Dnipro, only 3 links, which connected 2 banks of Dnipro River. And with it, we started this campaign at the end of July, at the beginning of the August 2022. With it, we created the problems for Russians. We interdicted their resupply, we interdicted the reserves, and even when Russians rushed reinforcements to the right bank of Dnipro, it didn't solve them the problem. So first and foremost, it is a result of newly acquired capabilities that were integrated into our overall plan. But this interdiction campaign, which targeted links over Dnipro, was only one part of Ukraine overall plan. Another part was, of course, actions from Ukraine formations at the front line directly. If we remember, at the end of August, Ukraine declared that we switch from defense to offense, and we started slowly to harass Russian forces, to create them problems, and to advance from the 3 directions. So from along Mykolaiv-Kherson road, along Snegurivka, and at the northern edge of this Russian bulge on the Dnipro right bank. And in 3 months, we managed to deplete their manpower, managed to deplete their ammunition stockpiles, and we basically presented Russians with a dilemma. So either you pretend to be safe on a Dnipro right bank, or you have to go. Otherwise, you face the prospects of complete rout, because it's very difficult to uphold the grouping of forces numbering, by different assessments, from the 30 to 40,000 troops without proper resupply. So it's a very careful Ukrainian plan that was first envisioned and then implemented, which relied on a NATO countries supplied long-range precision firepower, and also by Ukrainian action from the front. And with this successful campaign, with this operation, we also proved the utility and the soundness of the concept of the 1980s, which stipulated that if you are successfully targeting rare sites of the enemy, it would be very difficult for him to keep the current front line. So it's not a kind of miracle, as it's said. It's not a kind of concession, as it described in some Western media, and it's outrageous thing. It's a total Russian defeat, necessity to accept the objective realities that Ukraine created. We managed to drive the Russian forces, Russian military leadership's idea that their position is untenable, and it's either their withdrawal, retreat, or prospect of complete destruction of 30 to 40,000 troops grouping of forces.
So, Russians announced their retreat on the official level by their military leadership. Were they successful? Did they successfully retreat it, or they left lots of equipment and people on the right bank of the river?
Alas, our enemy is not that stupid. It's stupid, but it's still learning lessons, and they learned a major lesson out of Balaklia-Kupiansk offensive operation in Kharkiv region, when it was a complete surprise and it was a complete rout and it was unorganized defeat, where Russians left a lot of equipment, heavy equipment, including like artillery, but also a lot of ammo. So this time they carefully planned this retreat. So they learned the lessons, and as far as I understand, they basically used this announced evacuation, but it's deportation. It's a forced removal, replacement of the population. So it's a deportation. They use this forced removal as a cover, as far as I understand. So they treat civilians, like 70,000, as far as I remember, that were forcefully removed from Ukrainian Kherson and other settlements on the right bank of Dnipro. They use it basically as a cover to shield their formations, their equipment from being targeted, interdicted by Ukrainian long-range firepower systems in the process of evacuation. So I think, alas, we won't find a lot of enemy equipment, especially sophisticated one, the same as we found it in Kharkiv region. Also, the same story is with regards to the personnel. So I think the majority was evacuated in order, more or less. Definitely the special question with regards to this rear guard formation that were screening the front line and ensuring the proper time to complete this withdrawal. So I think these rear guard formations, they were targeted, and we see from the video footage, from the photo footage from the ground, that these makeshift crossings like pontoons, they were destroyed. It means that last formations definitely were targeted and they suffered unprecedented damage. But as far as I understand, majority of Russians, they retreated in order, using civilians as a cover, and by this committing another basically war crime. So we won't found a lot of equipment. We won't found a lot of Russians, maybe some Russians who switch clauses and now are hiding in the Kherson region. But this time Russians managed to do more orderly withdrawal.
What would it mean for this war? It seems like that Russia is losing the land it occupied for several months straight, and morale should be all times low in Russian army, and it doesn't work out like Putin intended it to work out. What does it mean for the future trends?
Well, Russian forced retreat from Dnipro right bank in the area of Kherson, it's another example. It's another evidence that the year 2022 campaign is a total disaster, total failure, that Ukraine managed to recover initiative and exploit it to the fullest possible extent. So that's the best proof. So since this campaign is concluding, it's the best proof that this campaign is a total failure, since Ukraine managed to recover major swaths of a territory despite the deficit of heavy weaponry, despite lacking air superiority, and so on. If we are talking about the specific military repercussions and what we are about to see in the future from strictly military standpoint, so everybody can use a Google Maps and measure distance where, for instance, Gimler missiles of 85-kilometer range could target the Russian rear, or Excalibur precision-guided munition for tube artillery can strike with 40 kilometers the range. So it's new opportunities opened for Ukraine to target Russian rear, not to allow them to regroup with ease without some threat of Ukraine long-range firepower. So new opportunities are opened, and it means that we would continue to create Russian problems. It won't be an easy winter for them, because we are about to destroy a lot of warehouses, stocking ammunition, stocking food, stocking fuel. We would make Russian formations life in the area near Azov Sea, near Black Sea, they still temporarily occupy, as miserable as possible, leveraging our asymmetrical advantage of precision-guided firepower. It's the major military result, but also we can talk about more broad strategic result and the levels of a grand strategy. I think it's another good coincidence that the liberation of Kherson took place when US midterms elections concluded. There is still a process of counting the ballot, but it doesn't matter who is going to take control of the House of Representatives, because everybody wants to be on the winner's side, not on the loser's side. And the Ukrainian negotiation position strengthened, Ukrainian ability to persuade our allies to continuously aid Ukraine strengthened. So if we manage to regain initiative, if we manage to do a major offensive operations both in east and the south, despite the deficit of the heavy weaponry, it means that if even this level of supply is continued, it creates opportunities to fully recover temporary lost territories, and in meantime, maybe after 2023 campaign, to occupy territories that Russia to control after 24th of February 2022. So it's not only about repercussions on the ground, about new opportunities for Ukraine created to strike Russian targets in depth from newly recovered position, and by this to lay in preconditions for another successful offensive. It's first and foremost another strategic coup for Ukraine. We proved that we are able, skillful, not only in defense in terms of combined modern combined arms warfare, but also in offense. And I think nobody now would doubt Ukrainian ability to prevail, and everybody want to be on a winning side. And it's Ukraine side that is winning.
I wanted to ask you one more question, and it's regarding the winter. You mentioned that winter is coming, and the experts all around the world say that Putin is hoping to freeze this war for the winter to regroup and retrain and do some stuff to prepare for the spring campaign. Could he be successful in it, or is it something different? Can Ukraine do counteroffensives in winter and do some actions?
With this Russian plan to switch to defense and use this time to regroup, as for me, it's a laughable scene, because definitely modern warfare is not like 100 years ago warfare, where was this strict difference between frontline and area, and it was quite difficult to influence developments in area, lacking long-range precision firepower. There was none, both in World War I, World War II. Luckily, now we have precision-guided munitions of different type that able to continuously strike Russian priority targets in area, which means that all this Russian plan to regroup without any Ukrainian effective interaction, they won't be successful. Luckily, we have the means, asymmetrical means provided by our partners, and we would continue to leverage them to the fullest possible extent. So definitely this plan, Russian plan, won't be successful. And our major target in this war, major goal in this winter part of the war is first and foremost preserve to the fullest possible extent the moral and resolve of Ukrainian frontline formation. It's quite a challenging scene, because in winter you need to do much more in terms of logistics to sustain your formations in fields, but it's within the realm of possible, luckily with the assistance of our partners and allies. And at the same time, another our goal in this winter period is to do everything in our power to ensure that the formations, Russian formations, Russian troops, which would come out of this winter periods, they would be demoralized to the fullest possible extent, and maybe they would cross the point of no return, which means that they need to be moved in the rear, and other replacements need to come. So it means that Russians won't have a preponderance in manpower they might want to have to launch another offensive. And with regards to the influence of the winter conditions in a war fighting, first and foremost, it depends on what kind of winter you have, because you might have a winter with temperatures around 0 Celsius, and it mud season, which restrict movement, make it more difficult. You need to have tracked vehicles, because wheeled vehicles are not suitable for this environment. And another, of course, it's maybe -10, -15 Celsius, which freezes the ground and opens opportunities for offensive. But even in this context, if it's possible, and there are historical examples when winter warfare is possible in Ukrainian territories, it's still a very, very challenging thing to do. And it's very challenging thing not only for logistics, not only for command and control, but first and foremost for the people on the front line. It's a very challenging thing to do. So it depends on the conditions, what kind of winter we have. And it's also, we need to keep in mind that it was very exhausting campaign, and first and foremost, both sides would need to regroup. But definitely we would continue to harass Russian forces using long-range firepower supplied by West.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this interview and have a good day. Hope you enjoyed it and see you soon. Bye.